Sup fam, it's Reaper666 streaming for you live from the Reap Den. Today we're going old school with a classic. Blood Cruncher 3, Bloodpocalypse Rising.
Henry, it's time for lunch.
Dad? Get out!
Wait, what is this? Are you playing violent video games again? You're gonna wind up on the 6 o'clock news.
Don't worry, Dad. The idea that video games cause violent crime is a total myth.
That is disgusting. They're trying to brainwash you into thinking that video games are safe.
Nope, you're the one who's been brainwashed. For as long as video games have existed, they've sent American parents into a frenzy of fear. In 1976, the National Safety Council panicked over the arcade game Death Race, calling these tame little pixels 666.
Actually! And in the 90s, politicians had a full-scale freak-out about a little game called Mortal Kombat. Democratic Senator Joe Lieberman claimed it taught kids to, quote, enjoy inflicting the most gruesome forms of cruelty.
Real quote unlocked.
But despite these repeated parades of pearl-clutching panic, there's still no actual evidence linking video games to violent crime.
Moral outrage unnecessary.
I don't know. I'm still not convinced.
Well, let's look at the facts. As video game sales in America have spiked, violent crime has actually gone down. And other countries where games are popular have even lower rates of violent crime.
そうだ。日本ではアメリカ人よりもっとゲーム遊ぶけど、拳銃の殺人は96倍少ないよ。これでどうだ？怪獣!
And despite the lazy media narrative connecting mass shootings to video games, multiple studies, including an analysis by the Secret Service, have found that school shooters actually consume significantly lower amounts of violent media in video games than their peers.
So you're saying video games don't have any effect on our kids at all? Not even that game Fork Knife, where you kill people with pickaxes?
It's called Fortnite, Dad. Pickaxe is a harvesting tool.
Well, some studies do show that violent video games can cause a temporary increase in aggressive thoughts and behavior.
But those studies are pretty flimsy.
Because they didn't measure anything the average person would actually consider aggression. One study just measured whether or not
People who played video games were more likely to feed their opponents hot sauce.
Hey!
And even if these studies had tested real-world acts of aggression, the change in behavior they measured was tiny, just 2% on average. Other studies have shown a similar effect in racing games and even real-life sports.
Dad does rage out whenever I beat him at ping pong.
That's because you play dirty, Henry. Oh, I see it now.
And we've reached the end of the video, which means you have two options. Option 1, hit subscribe and never miss another new video from Adam Ruins Everything ever again. Option 2, start reading the comments and weep for humanity.